just don't see it any other way. I'm too weak to make the climb. I need a miracle this time. That's when.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on ICRADIO, In Christ Radio. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can also find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, which is local to North Alabama, and then worldwide, we're on Abundance TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Don't you like the way I said that? Fire. I have a real good friend with me right now. Her name is Loretta Rodger, and she owns her own business. And sometimes you'll see her little a little thing right up here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right up here with our advertisers. And so we talk about her a lot on the show. But she is also the president of Cove Crafters, which is a part of Shepherd's Cove and Shepherd's Cove Thrift Shop and Shepherd's Cove everything. And I love your studio.
Thank you.
It's absolutely awesome. Well, are you feeling better?
Yes. Yeah, a lot better.
Good.
I still don't have a lot of energy, but I'm much better than I was.
Oh, that's okay. We're going to energize you on Thursday.
Oh, my goodness. You should see what all's going to happen Thursday. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I can't wait. So let's talk a little bit about Shepherd's Cove and then also about Cove Crafters. Let's say Cove Crafters first, because we have this upcoming. It's a lot of fun, and you've got to be there. And Phil's going to come with me too.
Good. We can use him, trust me. The project we're working on this Thursday is a little bit more detailed than ones we have done in the past for Cove Crafters. And it's brand new. No, we have not done a project like this before. So that's really exciting. And Mike has been taking some time to help me get the video ready. So for those of you who don't know, Cove Crafters meets on the second Thursday of the month. So that means we're meeting the 11th, which is this Thursday. I'm very excited. Now, we meet at Shepherd's Cove Hospice in the community room. If you're looking at the building from the street, the community room is over to your left. There's lots of parking, and it's really safe, so you don't have to worry about it. We eat at 5:30. We are fed by Santa Fe Cattle Company, and then after we have our meal, then we start our crafts. I do a video. Actually, we do a video so that all the steps, you can see those while you're eating, and then I keep it on a loop so that you can see while we're creating what exactly we should be doing. Which is, it's not a hard project. It's actually very beginner friendly. It's just, like I said, it's a lot of steps. So I'm looking forward to it. And you and Phil both are coming. Right now we have 4 men and 2 young men who are scheduled to come Thursday night.
That's good.
Maybe even 5. I think there may be a 5th gentleman that's going to be there with
Hey, wait a minute. Wait. Men are taking over.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is a very good thing. I'm very excited to see more gentlemen understand and see the importance of something like Cove Crafters, because, you know, as a guy, you want to fix things or mow the grass or, you know, those other wonderful things that can help out in our community. But just as important is bringing a smile to the face of a patient and their family. And I think that that's hugely important.
I do too. And I want to go back to the loop video. I'm really, and let's say a couple of things about your husband too. Mike is so supportive.
He is.
Yeah, and to all of us, not just to you, but to us. And he makes sure that we've got things that we need, you know. But then on the other hand, we make sure that he's got everything he needs as well. So
it really works out well.
Spirit thing.
Yes, he is wonderful support. I am really glad that he has finally retired. So he is, don't tell him I said this, he is now mine. And he's always been mine, but it's just nice to have that extra support to go, hey, I really need you to do something for me. Can you help me with, you know, whatever, fill in the blank? And he's always willing and able and has a wonderful attitude, a servant's heart. So that is something that I've always treasured about him and always will.
Same here with my hubby. So I'm glad he retired too. Now my hubby has retired 3 different times.
No.
So maybe this is the, as a matter of fact, we went back to Lowe's, you know, those little scan things that, you know, that's on products and stuff. Well, he did that a lot over there. I don't know what you call that, what the position is, but anyway, he, every time he goes, they say, we want you back, Phil. And I look at his boss. His boss always walks up and says, we'll pay you more. And I'm always going, no, no.
Absolutely not.
And they'll look at me and I'm like, no.
Yeah, and I do not rent him out, so don't ask.
Not at all. Now, when we make these projects, which is, you know, in everything you do to help, I mean, with Cove Crafters, you're really, really kind of a life support for these patients. So let's walk through the process. After it's made, then what happens?
And once the project is made and packaged, of course, when we're in the room, you will see that we have several very large bins that the projects are going to go in. That's so that they stay nice and neat. And then when they're ready to go out, they will go out. Now, we have a bunch of volunteers who come in around the last week of the month, and all of those projects are what I call tagged and bagged. So they are tagged with the patient's information, and then those go into a different set, and then our volunteers will pick them up and they will distribute them accordingly. So that's what happens to them next. Now, the nice thing is, right now I have taken a little bit of a break for the last month and a half from doing in-person patient care just because of my recovery from surgery. And so now I'm hoping I can get back into that, but it's probably my favorite part of it. I love designing, I love making, but I love watching them get those small gifts and go, wow, I love this. You know, how did you come up with this idea? And a lot of them do not know that I actually am the one who started the whole process to have that gift ready. And that's probably the most fun part, is to see it and go, oh, okay, should I tell them? And of course, I really don't. That is not about me. I want it to be about the gift and about the heart of all these people who have come together to make that project the wonderful art that it really is.
Now, there are many ways to volunteer at Shepherd's Cove, and this is just one of them, but now you volunteer other ways as well.
I do. One of the mandates for Medicare is that I think it's 5% of all of the care given by Shepherd's Cove Hospice needs to be done by volunteers. If my memory serves me right, last year we had 11% of that work done by volunteers. So that is phenomenal and speaks a lot of our community. And I think that it's so very important that people understand that there are many ways you can volunteer. Maybe you're not able to volunteer for some physical reason, but you can cook. Call up Shepherd's Cove and see if they need a meal brought to somebody. Maybe you just like to go shopping and you want to take some snacks and that kind of thing to the folks that are in the inpatient side of our unit. We need you. There are so many ways to help. My number one thing is to go and call Karen Denton. She's a volunteer coordinator there at Shepherd's Cove, and talk to her, and she will definitely plug you in where you're supposed to be.
Most definitely. Yeah.
I do. It's just wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And I'm always excited about the different things we make, because and you always make it seasonal, so you make it a lot of fun. Like I remember on Halloween, and then again Thanksgiving, then Christmas, and then Valentine's Day. So it's always something seasonal. So what are we going to be doing this week?
Actually, it's not a seasonal project at all. It is kind of a neutral project. We're doing what I am calling an encouragement book. It is a small booklet that is 4 pages and has 4 different verses in it. And there's room in there. I've left some blank pages, so if the person receiving the gift would like to put a small picture or just some notes or whatever, they can do that. And it is, I think, one of the loveliest projects we've ever attempted to make. And I think it's something that people will treasure.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. And, you're always, and I had this boss one time, and she said, this is what I want you to think about. I was very young. I was like 25 years old. It was my first corporate job. And so I remember her saying, you need to live life. Think about your last day on earth, what you would like for people to say about you. So that's how you need to live your life. And I just think that this would be just another present that the patient can give their family before passing.
Absolutely.
They can write down in that book. It's going to be something they'll treasure.
I think so. And the thing is that the verses that I chose for this little book were definitely inspired from praying about it. I had a general idea of what I wanted to do for the project, but I didn't know exactly how I wanted to execute it. And so I spent several days praying and doing some just general scripture searches to find exactly what it was that was on my heart, that I really feel like that regardless of where you are in life and whether or not you're even a believer in Christ, will bless your heart. And I am, as a Christian woman, it is my goal to spread the love of Christ, especially in the day in which we live, because Christ is coming and he's coming very soon, I hope.
I think so too. Now let's talk just for a few minutes, and then I want to dive back in about your career and what you do, because you have another business on the side too. So, but let's talk about Shepherd's Cove. What is Shepherd's Cove? What's it about?
Okay, Shepherd's Cove is actually a hospice, and it's a 501c charity. So that means regardless of whether you have insurance or you have any financial means to pay for care, we're going to take care of you. That is handled from the foundation end of things. And the most wonderful thing to me is it doesn't matter who you are, man, woman, black, white, red with purple polka dots, we love you so much, and we want you to have some peace in those last days of your life, as well as help your family to have peace and continue to have peace and healing during those precious months before and after our patients go home to be with the Lord.
Mm-hmm. And kind of a guideline too, because, and I've said this several times, when my son was born, he did not come with a book. I looked for a reference book, maybe a set of encyclopedias attached to him, nothing. So, I mean, it's like, instinct has to kind of take in. But you guys help guide people through those last days as well.
There are, we have both social workers and pastoral services. They're all trained, they're all certified, so you don't have to worry that an information or something would be given to you and be incorrect. They pride themselves on not only their love of people, but their quality of care. And the same goes with our nursing staff and our physicians. I have had the pleasure of talking one-on-one with several of our nursing staff and just seeing how they care for patients. It will change your life. Many years ago, when Mike and I first got married, I cared for one of his younger brothers in the last 6-8 weeks of his life. And one of the biggest lessons I learned was, if you want to learn how to live, you need to be with somebody who's about to die, because they will live life and they will teach you so much, and you will have so much joy and peace, even though it hurts when they're gone. That joy and peace overshadows that so much. And there is a grieving time. There's a very long grieving time, especially if it's a spouse or a child. And that's what those staff members are for. They have grief support groups. They have one-on-one counselors if you need that. There's a listening ear. Maybe you need to call and just talk to someone for a little bit. All of that is available at no cost. None.
I think this is really awesome, because in different aspects of Shepherd's Cove, if you're new in town, we've mentioned this several times before, Albertville is growing like crazy. A lot of new businesses are coming in. A lot of folks are coming into this area. And let's say your spouse has been relocated and you're with a spouse and you don't know anyone at all. This is a great way to meet the cream of the crop, because, I mean, you're volunteering. And you might, and I, this is just the way it is, Loretta. Life is this way. It's who you know for the next job. And so if you've been relocated, you'll meet the movers and the shakers. You'll meet the ones that will help you find a career if you're looking for something else.
And I agree. When my husband and I moved here from the Fort Meade area in Maryland, and that's a long ways, we were actually had decided we would rent a car, fly. We flew into Atlanta, rented a car, put 2,000 miles on a rental car in a week, and we just drove around. We kind of had an idea of where we wanted to be. Some friends called us and said, "Hey, come and see us. We're about 120 miles away." Well, okay, whatever. And the next thing I knew, we were looking for houses. And so I really think that if you just take that little extra time and give somebody a smile, maybe you're visiting this area and you're at the Waffle House, do your best. Donna Feazell interview and just speak to people. They will tell you exactly what's going on in the community, and that will encourage you to be part of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're part of a great team when you do that as well. I like the way that Shepherd's Cove is respected in the community as well. I've talked to different folks who are talking to me about buying ads and stuff at the station, and when I mention you guys, it's like, I mean, it's just your reputation is just super exceeds anything. It's just that, and then a lot of folks, they have relatives. Let's think Mike Harden, who owns Horizon Television. And so he said that his mother, he said, you guys really made it easy for him when his mother was passing away.
It is a gift to be able to love someone and their family through the end of life journey.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And especially our nurses and our physicians, you have to have a heart for it, and they definitely do. And they show it in their everyday life.
They do. And the board of directors also, you guys have a great board of directors.
We do.
Yeah,
we do indeed.
Ranging from different aspects. You got accountants, you got attorneys, you got business owners, Mike, I just mentioned, who owns the TV station. That's a pretty good person right there to have on your board of directors.
It is, indeed.
Absolutely. So let's talk just for a few minutes about Shepherd's Cove Thrift Shop. And then we're going to go into a commercial break. And then when we come back, I want to talk about your business. So anyway, I love the thrift shop. This is where I find so many things. And I'm looking I found some earrings, and I like that it was just full of a whole bunch of little crosses.
Oh, that's pretty.
So what I did is I'm a metal worker. So I got some copper, and then I cut it, and then, I kind of beat it with a hammer, which is a good thing to do, by the way, if you're having a rough day. and then I made a pair of earrings out of it. But you can take things and repurpose. As a matter of fact, I can't wait for you to come over to the house and look at my studio, because Phil bought this box. Now, the other Loretta, who works at the thrift shop, so she came by, and I said, Loretta, this is absolutely perfect. This is exactly what I've been looking for my studio, because I'm put the computer up. I've got the place for the keyboard to slide in and out. I mean, this is just exactly what I needed. And it cost like $7. And so we repurposed it. I didn't need the big whole thing. So Phil cut off part of it and set it up on my studio desk. So, I mean,
that is cool.
Gonna find.
That is cool. Yeah, I have found so many things there. I find clothes that still have brand new tags on them. The outfit I've got on today, a pair of jeans and this cute little top, came from the thrift store, brand new. $4 for the pants and like $2 for the shirt.
And this shirt there, it's like $3, I think, and it's a real good. You don't iron. I like anything I don't have to iron.
Exactly.
So you just wash it and just hang it up on a clothes rack. And I love this. I like it. It's not wrinkly. And so I've got a sewing machine does embroidery. So I put my logo up on it.
I love it. I love your embroidery. I actually want a shirt that says I'd rather be stamping embroidered on it.
I need to do that for you. I'd rather be stamping.
Absolutely. Yes. But if you saw my desk, you would understand why. I'm actually working on a baby gift right now, and so you name it, it's out. That's why it's a little bit more of a mess back here than normal. But I kind of keep things where I have some small containers on my desk, and that way, if I'm having to make a lot of one thing, then I just have my little parts and I can just go down the line and be done. And I think that's one of my favorite things about crafting is I can be in the middle of all that and get interrupted, and it doesn't matter. because I'm going to be able to see where I left off just by
Mhm.
the progression of the pile.
Well, how do you stay organized? You know, a lot of folks, like when I first started my business, every room of the house was my craft room. Like every room, even the bathroom, every room was part of.
See, you've been over, you already know that mine's so much. We do have a closet that when we bought the house was meant for coats, and Mike put shelves in it, and the next thing I know, it's not for linens anymore. It's got extra craft supplies in there that I need to keep. And when you run Cove Crafters, which I do, there's an abundance of supplies I always have to have on hand. Everything from hot glue guns to power cords and to extra scissors,
Mhm.
heat guns, you name it. I've got to have 3 or 4 or 5, even sometimes 10 of that item, so that when we have craft club meeting, the individuals who are there have the proper supplies to be able to do the project without ever thinking about it, which is something that I think is necessary. When we first started Cove Crafters, that was one of the first lessons I learned kind of sort of the hard way. And that's number one, how much do I need to do in advance? And how much supplies do I really need to have as far as materials like die cutter or scissors, and like we were just talking about. So I think it's hugely important to stay organized. And one of the things that I do, may sound silly to some people, but it works really well, is that I'll take a gallon or a 2-gallon Ziploc kind of zippy bag, and once the pieces are cut and they're ready to go for Cove Crafters, they all are in their own bags. This particular project is going to have 4 stations. And so station 1 has its bag and etc. And that's going to keep us organized on craft club night, but also keeps me organized so I know exactly where things are so that I don't get confused.
Now you're a crafter and I'm a crafter. It's just part of our line. I mean, we love doing this. What is it about crafting that kind of gives you a peace of mind?
Oh, I really think that it's the ability to share the love of, in my case, I'm a paper crafter by heart. I do other things as well, but not as much as paper crafting. I love to journal, mixed media kind of thing. But I think that the biggest thing for me personally is the ability to teach someone else how to do it.
Mhm. And you do,
Because if you share it, yeah.
which is also another part of your business. We've got about 6 minutes, about 3 minutes before we go into a commercial break. So I want to talk about it a little bit and then dive back in again. But when you've got a lot, like a lot of people, like I'm caring for my mother right now, and a lot of people care for elderly parents. Sometimes you need something else going on in your life. You need a breakaway. You need something that's going to take you to another place. And you and I have several of those things that take us to another place. Part of it's the show, part of it is other things. But you need a little breakaway. And that's another reason why I think Cove Crafters is so good. If it could be problems at home, it could be kids are in drugs, it could be just a number of things, but you need a place that you can go and get away from it all, even if it's just an hour, and go to Cove Crafters and just, you got to get
most of the time Cove Crafters does last at least an hour. Usually it can last all the way to 8:30. It doesn't happen very often, but sometimes it does. And just the ability to get together with like-minded people, learn something new, it just helps to take your mind off of the hardship and give you a little bit more energy to face those tough things that you've got going on in your life.
I think so too. And there's just something about working with your hands. There's a guy who comes on Create TV, and I like to watch this guy's show. And he used to work, he had this high-powered job. He was in New York City, overlooking, had this really nice, magnificent office, made a lot of money, a ton of money. But he had a little hobby. He liked woodworking. And I'm talking about a high-rise apartment he and his wife lived in, but there was a garage, and he rented that garage out. That's where he kept all of his tools. And so his wife finally said, "You're, getting really hard to live with. You know, this big corporate job you've got, you're miserable. You're not happy. The only time I see you happy is when you're down at your woodworking shop and you're working, making furniture or picture frames, whatever. It's something that you're working with your hands. So he went on ahead and bit the bullet. He turned in his resignation. He quit the job. And so now he hosts a show where he shows people and also showcases other people who are crafters. And he said, I'm going to tell you, he said, I was about to have a nervous breakdown with this job. And if people were just telling him, you know, you got it made. What is wrong with you? But he said it just wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't satisfying. He liked helping other people. And so this is the whole thing that helped him out.
Well, you know, you were talking about us crafters. I don't know if you can see. Can you see my hands?
Mm-hmm.
The green and purple and whatever other ink that I've been working with. But, you know, and it's kind of interesting because I try to, you know, scrub off all the ink and it doesn't always come off. And I was sitting in church yesterday and I realized I had ink from here all the way down to my elbow. I'm like, I scrubbed, but it's just, you know, but it's part of the process. And if you don't embrace that, I hate to say gunk, you know, gunk can be fun. Have you ever seen what
I
you
love
can do
gunk.
Glue? You know, I'm surprised I don't have it in my hair some days. You know, let's be honest. But I do. I love it, and I love to teach.
Hey, getting your hands dirty. I mean, that's just an awesome thing. You know, now even colleges are figuring this out. People that work with their hands, people are electricians, people are HVAC. I mean, all of this, for people who are working with their hands, they don't have the college debt behind them. They're making good money to begin with. And those are the jobs that they're actually encouraging people to do now, where you work with your hands.
Absolutely. I think it keeps your mind sharp.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. Absolutely. I know my dad, and you know, that's what he always did. He worked on with a company called Lee Brass for a very long time. And we never starved to death, you know, and he's always had a job. So, you know, so let's go ahead and get ready for a commercial break. I just looked at the clock to see what time it is. Let's go ahead and have commercials. You can go in ahead and sign out if you want to, Loretta. Don't sign out. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and take you off of video because you're going to be sitting there for about 3 minutes with commercials coming on. And then when we come back in, you go ahead and put the video back in again.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll hang in there, and we are going to be right back in just a few minutes if I can open up the right screen. And we will be right back in just a few minutes. So y'all hang in there. Good afternoon. We are back. My name is Donna Feazell, and I'm your host of Afternoon Drive Home on ICRADIO in the town of Geraldine, Alabama. We're your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. That's local North Alabama. You can also find us on Abundant TV, which is found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And we want to thank Rob Patz for making this happen, and also Mike Harden for making this happen locally. So we definitely appreciate that. We know you'd be doing anything else, but you're watching us right now, and we definitely appreciate that. You know, everybody likes working crafts. I mean, there's been this, I think people have been doing this for a long time. You know, the original crafters, I think, were probably quilters. You think so?
Yeah, I do actually. It was a necessity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just get old clothes, and you know, there's a quilt that I know how to make, and as and it kind of quilts itself, and you can make this on a sewing machine as well. So what you do is you go on ahead and you cut out this circle, and you can make it any size you want to. So cut out a circle, and then you'll cut a square that goes in the middle of it, and then you'll put the flaps over the circle, covering the square, and it turns into a square again. Then you zigzag the four corners, which are inside corners, and then you put the different squares together, and you got a quilt. Quilts its own self.
That is cool. Yeah, I love quilts. I have quite a few of them. And a very interesting source, if you want like a more vintage quilt, is Goodwill. You can go to shopgoodwill.com, and they have really good buys on older quilts that are in good shape. You may need to, you know, fix a small little rip or tear or something, but overall, throw them in the wash and they're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, the crafting and doing, and what you're just saying, repair, that's almost it's a craft within itself.
It is.
And there's something
really is
and let's talk a little bit about, because paper crafts, that's one craft I never really got into, but I'm beginning to now. I'm beginning to see it now. Do you offer craft classes as well? Your business.
Yes, I do. Right now, like I said before, I am still kind of in recovery mode and trying to get things organized. I'm going to probably be doing a card class coming up with a local church. And if I do, then I will post that information. Right now, my biggest emphasis is on Cove Crafters. It is pretty much turned into a full-time job, and it is my pleasure to do so. And like this week, I have had a really good time. There have been 2 baby showers. One was for a little girl, and I made her thank you cards, and then this one coming up is for a little boy, and these are the thank you cards that I made for that one.
And these are cards you can find these at a store anywhere. I mean, these are so unique.
Yeah, these are custom just from the standpoint that everything has to be die cut, and it has to be die cut in a certain order. And then my favorite thing is I do have a lot of scrapbooking paper, as you've seen. And you haven't even really seen all of it because I have some 6x6 little paper pads. But I took some of my favorite paper pads and I cut them so that they would be the front of the little onesie. And it makes a great gift, especially if you don't really know the person that well, that you want to support them with their upcoming arrival. And that is so much fun.
Well, how can you have, because if you're not careful, you can spend a ton of money, having a craft business, so to speak. How do you keep yourself on a budget?
Well, for one thing, yes, there's the budget, but I've collected my supplies over a almost 22-year period since my husband and I got married. So, stuff that I've had in my stash for, 5-10 years, obviously is going to be cheaper than rebuying it now. So I try to take very good care of what I do have so that I keep those costs down. The foundation, as far as like Shepherd's Cove Hospice, reimburses a lot of my expenses, or if it's something I want to donate, like scrapbook paper for a project, I just tell them, hey, I'm donating this. Can you please, give me a charitable receipt? Because we are a 501c charity. That means if you donate, whether you're donating to the thrift shop or you're donating supplies to Cove Crafters or whatever it is, then you can request that type of a receipt. And they usually get it to me within a few days. So I'll get that file when the taxes come rolling around.
We talked a little bit about how you stay organized, and I wish you guys could see her shop. It's better now. When you have your classes, are they there at your shop? I'm talking about your first.
No, there's no way I could fit a whole lot of people in there. When Mike first helped me get the room in place and hung the cabinets and did everything I wanted, and he did it so perfectly. I had a much smaller desk and I had a table in here. Well, the thing is, as I've grown and done more with Cove Crafters, I need that space for storage. So if I'm going to have a class, it's going to be at my dining room table. Or it's going to be somewhere else, like a church or a fellowship hall, Shepherd's Cove Hospice, obviously that class is free. But if I didn't do that, I think I would probably be a little crazy.
I say so too. Really. Now, how can you turn it around? Because a lot of folks say it's a hobby, and but how do you turn it around to it's a passion you have? And I like making widgets. Let's just say I like to make widgets, and there's a market for widgets. We'll pretend there is. And so, how can I turn this into a business where I can actually make a profit?
Well, there are some actual things you can do, and I wish I had it in front of me, but there is an online calculator that you can use to decide how much you need to charge for a product. So right now, most of the stuff that I sell, I either sell to individuals locally who commission me to do a project, or like at a craft fair. And so what I'll do is I'll decide, okay, I'm making 20 of these kind of cards. I've already decided, because of the price of materials, that I charge $6 a piece for my cards. They come with an envelope and they're nicely made. Now, if you want to argue that I can buy one at Hallmark, please go do so. It's not going to hurt my feelings at all. But if you want something that is quality made, then come see me. It's just like with you and your soaps. You know, you already have a clientele because you know they love soap. I love soap. I'm starting to learn a little bit about how to make it thanks to your videos, and you answer questions really well, by the way. So whatever it is that you want to do and you're going to turn your passion into a business, then you really need to start with the basics, like how much did the supplies cost? How much am I charging for my time? What is the final, project going to look like in that price? And the last thing you have to consider is, will my potential clientele be able to absorb the price that I think that they should pay for it? Do not fall into the trap of going, well, here it is, and there's 3 hours to go in this craft fair. I'm just going to start marking stuff down. Don't do it. There just seems to be sometimes it's like, oh, well, she still has a few things. It's the end of the day, and they've walked around, and now they're going to come shopping. And that, I think, is the biggest mistake a lot of crafters make, is they go, let's just mark it down by half. Let's just get rid of it. No, even if you have to take it home, you've already got a package. It's nice and protected. It's not going to get dusty and dirty and, what we call shop worn. But I can almost promise you that as you get closer to the end of the day, other people are marking their stuff down, and they're noticing that you're not. And they're going to go, the quality certainly is there, and the value is there, and I really want that, and they'll buy it.
And your time is worth something too. So how do you calculate your time in?
Now, that's where I was saying you need to do a Google search, because there is some online calculators that you can say, okay, I want to make $10 an hour, which, by the way, is nothing. So, but if I charge that $10 an hour, my car would go from $6 to 10 or 16, So I try to be reasonable. Okay, well, overall, did I spend 20 hours? Okay, well, that's $200, whatever, that figure is. So I want to make at least $200 for everything I sell on top of what I'm charging. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you've got to pay those expenses, and then expenses are going up. So I've, had to figure out another, because I like to make beeswax candles and beeswax lip balms and stuff like that. And so that's part of the reason that I became a beekeeper. My grandmother was a beekeeper. And I thought, beeswax has just like doubled in price. And I don't want to have to double, what I have to charge for making beeswax candles. And so sometimes you just have to do a little research, and, is it worth being a beekeeper? It is. I love being a beekeeper. But because, the honey is one way for income, and then the beeswax, holding that and cleaning it, and, and it's really, I found some really good ways. It's not as hard as you think. It's not that difficult.
Yeah, my dad was a beekeeper my entire life, and I learned a lot from him. And people kind of have this misconception that they should, they get kind of in a bunch of bees, that they should panic and flail and stuff like that. You're just inviting them to sting you. Stay still. If you can stay as still as you can, they will not bother you, and they will kind of ignore you after a few minutes and go on their little merry way, and you'll be safer. But and that actually, don't swat at them, as you well know. But when you're a beekeeper, there are so many benefits of honey that people don't realize. If you have allergies or asthma like you do, then that local honey that's grown close to where you live, is going to actually boost your immune system.
Absolutely. There are other things you can do. There's one of my clients, they've been using me for a long time, but for other things, jewelry, commission weddings and stuff like that. And so her mother-in-law passed away. And she said, all I've got, she said, we've got a whole bunch of flowers, and I don't know what to do with them. She said, so I'm just going to, if you don't mind, let me just give them to you, and you figure something out. Well, I made beads out of the flowers. I dried them. I have a dehydrator, so I did that. And then I got to thinking about it. I think it would be really neat because I work with resin a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I did is I put the flowers. Now you got to work on this really fast, okay, before they start drying and start looking ugly. So as soon as you can, if it's a wedding or a funeral or whatever, you need to get those flowers to you like ASAP so that you'll have plenty of time to work with them. So what I did is I put the flowers, and they turned out beautiful. I put the flowers in this kind of like a sand mixture that you can buy. And
Yeah, the silica.
Oh man, I love that. That is the best thing that ever happened if you're working with flowers. And so what I did is I made several different things for her out of all those flowers. Made a wind chime out of the flowers. And I dried them and then put them in resin. So I made these little balls, and kind of like, you've seen some of my wind chimes. So it was almost like making beads, but I made the beads out of resin, and so I made the wind chimes out of that. Then I said, do you like? And I thought I knew her personality enough. I said, do you like old stuff? Do you like vintage stuff? And she said, oh, I love vintage. And I said, well, I've got an idea with those flowers. I said, I put them in the silica, and what it does, it kind of preserves them. And I said, what if I find just an old pan or just something, or if you have something, bring it and I'll put it in it. And I said, what I'll do is I'll get those flowers that it takes a while to do this, by the way. It took about 2 weeks.
It does, a few days.
Right. And that silica, it kind of goes down in the leaves and in between the little nooks and little crannies. And that's how it preserves it. I think she likes that more than anything I made. So I found a pan, and I put the flowers, just kind of made an arrangement. Now you have to do it in steps. So first of all, you put the resin down in just a little bit, a small layer of resin. And then you put the flowers in it before it starts hardening. And then I found another way to just kind of put it over it and kind of leaving the flowers creeping out. So it's almost like this 3D effect. And man, she fell in love with that. I mean, she said, I couldn't imagine anything like that. And so she's got that in her living room. And so, I mean, just use your imagination. If you've got a passion for something, use your imagination. And I promise you, your customer is going to love it. If they see your passion, they're going to love it. But you also kind of need to know their style. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, you do kind of, and like here in the South, that's kind of easy because, well, we're Southerners and we like things that are farmhouse, or a lot of, especially us women, we like things that are a little bit softer and floral. And yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm working on a journal right now made for myself, but it's just that it's very floral, it's very feminine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that.
So, and I actually took it with me this last week. Had it on my person because I wanted to write some stuff down, and I had several compliments. Oh, do you sell those? I do now.
Mm-hmm. See, that's it. So you got the passion. You were using it. You weren't forcing it to anybody, and they're just watching you enjoy what you do and what you make. So what's the importance? You got me into journaling. I had never done this before, and I've taken notes, but there's a difference between just taking notes in some book and journaling. So what's the difference between the two?
Well, journaling is, to me, it's a lot more detailed. It allows you, I call it a brain dump, because when you just got so much on your mind and you got all these other things in your life, like with, your mom not doing really well right now, or you have kids that are driving you crazy, or you're just kind of in this, what I call a funk, take a few minutes, and once you write those first 3 words, if you just let your mind go, next thing you know, you've got 8 pages. And that's the point. It's a way to just kind of let all of that go. Nobody ever has to see it. And if you're finished with a journal and you're afraid, hey, look, this is my personal thought, I really don't want anybody to see it. As far as I'm concerned, burn it. Let it go. Okay, Lord, here's this journal. I thank you that you gave me the words to put in it. I'm going to give it, here it is. I need to let it go.
It's a way of releasing. Just let that go. Forgive. Let it go.
Yeah, you really do have to have a bunch of forgiveness in your life. If you don't, you can either be better or you can be bitter. And with everything, lots of things that have happened in my life, I can tell you that it's a choice to be better, because bitter does nothing for you. Nothing. It will get you nowhere, and it will leave you in a hole somewhere depressed.
You know, something I've thought about too. My grandmother and my granddad both had cancer. And if they had kept a journal with all they were going through with that, you know, with the cancer. And my grandmother had jawbone cancer back in 1961.
Oh my goodness.
Well, this is back when it was a death sentence if you had cancer. But she survived it and lived for another almost 20 years. And
oh wow,
it was in her jawbone, and so the doctor had to take part of her jawbone out. And I've often thought about that. How did she deal with that? Because she was an attractive woman, and they had to take the, you know, part of the jawbone out. But she talked about it one time, and she said, I just asked the doctor, you know, well, you know, is that going to get rid of the cancer? And he didn't have a whole lot of hope about it. Like I said, this is back in the day when you were just, you know, there's a death sentence for you. And he said, well, I'll have to take as much of your jawbone as I can. She said, oh, is that all? And he said, yeah. And she said, well, then take it out. She was willing to do that. But I've often thought about how inspiring that was just by hearing bits and pieces of what she went through with that. I would have loved to have had a journal of that journey that she went through having cancer. And I just think that's something everybody else should do. I mean, if you're going through something weird, it could be a divorce. It could be, you know, like I said, kids, you know, that are having some difficulties. It could be anything. A pastor's wife needs to keep a journal, because I promise you're living a life that very few live that life.
Yeah, I don't think that I could do that. I don't know if I would have the patience. I told someone yesterday, just about a girlfriend of mine, you know, just chatting back and forth. I said, I learned a long time ago, because scripture tells us not to ask for patience. I said, so I don't ask for patience anymore. I ask for tolerance.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Tolerance.
Because, absolutely. You know, let's put in a different package with a bow. Tolerance, because patience is learned through strife, through trial. Tolerance is learned from a decision that you make to go, I really don't like this, but if I tolerate it, then you've learned something. Because when you stand at the other side of that storm and you've had tolerance through it, you've already learned patience. But you've learned, okay, well, I wasn't alone. I'm not alone, and I will never be alone.
And then getting back to that journal again. So you've had to go through some things, you've overcome it, you've written a journal about it. I think it's a great thing to share with other people. If you wanted to make a book out of it or whatever and have it printed, or if you just know somebody, say my parents, my dad was a pastor. And so they went through a divorce. And I'm going to tell you what, it was rough. I mean, it really was. People, you know, talking, naysaying, and all this kind of stuff going on. And it's hard on the kids. It's hard on the kid anyway. It doesn't really matter whether they're pastors or not, but it's especially hard when you're you know, it's a pastor's family. So a friend of mine later on in life, her parents were going through a divorce. And so she came to me and she said, you know, I didn't understand what you went through a few years ago. Now I get it. She said, that was rough, wasn't it? And I said, yeah. So I was able to talk with her about how I handled it, you know.
Yeah, I think a journal is very important. But you have to realize that you need to be in a place where that vulnerability is a shared experience versus something that could be weaponized. It's the way you look at it. I have pretty much a journal for all except for maybe 10 days last year that I kept. So there's a whole bunch of journals. And if somebody one day wanted to pick them up and read them, that's fine. You're going to pick it up and go, oh, Loretta, you took a picture of that. That was really a mess, dear. You know, or they could just read it and it could be something that was on my heart that day. Maybe I've got a burden for a friend, you know, and it's like, you know, it almost turns into a prayer. I don't know what to do about this. So I'm praying about it. And I really hope that the Lord's going to give me something that I can do or say for this individual to help them through whatever it is they're going through in their life. And if you do that for them, I can guarantee you it's going to come full circle back to you, and you're going to get 10 times more back than you could ever give, because that's what the Lord does. He blesses those who bless him.
Mhm. Well, what happens is you experience these things. And my question is always my entire life, why, Lord? Why? Why me? Why am I having to go through all this kind of stuff? And then later on, I can see how I've helped somebody because I had to struggle and go through it. And that's what your journaling there is all about, too. I think journaling is it's where, because people will say, are you okay today? Well, you're my personality, and we'll share everything around each other's shoulders to each other. But to other people, we don't do that. We'll just say, oh, everything's cool, everything's okay. So we're not really telling the truth. But a journal, you can let it all out there. It doesn't matter. You can put the good, the bad, the ugly, everything out there. And I just think it's a form of therapy.
It is. And the other thing is, when you do that journaling, especially in the arena of there's a circumstance that you've been praying about or that you're struggling with, and you look back on that journal 6 months later and you go, wow, I didn't think that was going to work out like it did, but it's even better than I thought. And I think that if you keep that in perspective, that it kind of goes back to that song, God answer, thank God for unanswered prayers. Well, he did answer them. He just gave you a firm, I don't think so, no.
Well, it's because God knows the future and we don't. And yes, there have been times I remember being like 14 years old and I liked this little boy, and I thought, oh, I hope that he and I get married someday. Well, I've seen the outcome of him. I'm really glad I've got Phil. I really am. So, because we can't see the future, we have no clue.
You can't. And I can't. Well, I married my high school sweetheart and we divorced 13 years later. And I thought that was going to kill me. I did 2 years of a really good pastoral counselor, and that helped me get out of that pit. And then wasn't looking, and in walked Mr. Rodger. And 5 months later, we got married.
That's awesome.
Wouldn't tried a minute of it, even with the hardship and the things that go on in your personal life. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I am so thankful and grateful to have a partner who loves me, but he loves Lord first. And that's how our lives work together, is because we have that trust, that love for one another, and that love for Christ.
And that's all part of it. Absolutely. About 3.5 minutes left in this segment. We have an awesome event coming up this coming Thursday. Let's talk a little bit more about that.
Cove Crafters meets this Thursday night at Shepherd's Cove Hospice's main facility, which is on Martland Road here in Albertville. We will be eating at 5:30, and we're going to be fed by Santa Fe Cattle Company. Then after we eat, which is 5:30, around 6-ish, if there's any business, I'll let you guys know that. And I will have already started a video that shows all the steps and process of the project we're working on. And it will loop the entire night, so that if you happen to be talking to somebody, your neighbor or, your friend, then you're still going to be caught up. You won't have any questions. I always circulate. So while you guys are watching the video and you're starting the project, I'm right there to encourage you and help you if you need me to show you something one-on-one. And then at the end of the evening, we just we give hugs, take a group picture, and everyone goes on their way. And it is so much fun. It doesn't matter whether your talent is turning on a light switch or you're Martha Stewart and you can do everything. I promise there is a activity that you will like. There will be something for you to do, and I hope, it's always my hope, that you will be happy and joyful just from having the experience.
Yeah, a lot of women's groups look for things to do. It could be a church group, it could be a club, it could be just all kinds of things. This would be a great, great thing to have all the women of your church and your Sunday school class come. But you've got to know ahead of time, right?
Absolutely. Right now we have 23 slated for this craft club. I wish that I had a crystal ball and could say all 23 would make it. That would be awesome. Yes, you are. You know, but the thing is, you know, people ask me, well, what if you have more than 23? Well, that's just less projects, you know, everybody's going to spread the labor out. But the other thing is that if you do have that women's group or that fellowship group, you know, here in the community, and you want to just do a project just for that group to make together, you know, a little, I hate the word team building, but, you know, fellowship building, how's that? Then give me a call. I will be more than happy to let you know what we can do. If, you know, if there's costs involved as far as like materials and things like that, then you definitely can do that, because I think it's so important as women that we have a creative outlet.
I do too. Absolutely. Loretta, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's always so much fun.
I love you.
I love you too. And I can't wait for Thursday, because I've got this friendship with this girl right here. I love every class.
Thank you. And I love teaching them.
Well, and she does. And like she just said, if you just started crafting, you've never done anything like that before in your life, or you're a Martha Stewart, you're always going to have fun, and you're going to reach out and have all kinds of great friends too. So I love being part of this Cove Craft. Thank you, Loretta.
Good to see you.
You too.
And I'll see you Thursday.
Absolutely. Folks, let's go on ahead and call it a day. We'll be back with our next guest coming up in just a few minutes. So y'all hang in there, okay?